Welcome everyone to the Ancubator Podcast, coming to you from Ancubator's Southeastern Michigan headquarters in the great city of Troy, Michigan. Our podcast today focuses around the technology of voice search and its effective use on websites in the healthcare and judicial industries. Looking to find out how voice search can help your business? Listen in as we get into this exciting topic and get right into our full conversation with Ancubator founder Sujal Raju. Well, welcome Sujal, and thanks for taking the time to discuss this great topic with us.
Thanks, Dave. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, for starters, and for those who may not be rather familiar with this exciting technology of voice search, if you could, why don't you give us a brief overview of this topic? There seems to be a big buzz out there about voice search, just what it is and what it can do. But for everyone listening, I guess, what is voice search and why should we care?
Sure, Dave. And there is a lot of buzz because people are adopting to it at a massive rate. Mm-hmm. Think of what smartphones did on how we communicate. This is the only other technology that has been adapted so fast, so quickly, compared to the smartphones. And let's look at why. Before voice search, people needed a computer or some device that they would have to type in and look for the right keywords to perform a good search and then get the results. And so it required, or I would say it was a little inconvenient because you would have to be, it couldn't be done in a moment. You would have to be in front of a computer and then perform a search. With voice search, as long as you're in the house and you have your voice assistant anywhere close to you, you could simply launch a command just by speaking to it as if you're speaking to another person, and make that query and get the answer. So because of this ease, there is a high rate of getting the information that you need in that moment. So imagine waking up from the bed and just knowing how the weather is going to be by just simply saying, how's the weather? And the next thing would be checking on the traffic to know exactly when do you have to leave. Like, do you have half an hour? Do you have an hour extra to start wherever you're going to go? Or schedule the Uber pickup. So all of these things are making it very easy for things for allowing people to be more active, and also I would say easily do things.
You're talking Google Assistants in the home, but we're talking probably any devices, right?
That is correct. You are going to see this technology being implemented in quite a few places. So today, yes, it could be the assistant devices like speakers or maybe smartphone, but imagine talking to your fridge, imagine talking to your car, imagine talking to anything out there, really. Even businesses are actually adapting this at a high rate. So if you enter a hospital, you could be greeted at a kiosk by an assistant, and then that could help you get wherever you want to go when you're at the location.
Right. I guess it's just all great information to get users the information they need, get them where they want to go. So you personally, Suju, you've had over 20 years of experience developing technological solutions used by hospitals probably around the country. For those listening with more of a technical knowledge, who may want to kind of dive a little deeper down into voice search and what it does, what about the inner workings? I mean, how would you describe kind of how it works behind the scenes?
Yeah. So voice search, if you look at it at a higher level, and if I have to summarize how the technology works, is that a person speaks whatever they are seeking. So it's a natural language. That natural language or sentence gets converted or listened in by the assistant. It then picks it up and processes it using linguistic algorithms, which then identifies the context and the right keywords in your sentence that can then trigger the right search that needs to be performed. You have to, the key thing here is that compared to your computer where you perform a search and you would get a list of 10 results or more, you could look through them and look at the one that most interests you and click on it. But with voice search, what the assistant has to do is get that one thing that is most relevant to what you're looking for and get you that information. So there's a lot of technology that's behind this, and how that happens is like I said, it converts the language into the right keywords, and then uses the search engine that it's relying on to find the right information. And this is done by knowing the context, like I was saying, applying the right schema, and getting the results, and then showing that to the user. So what all things are involved is obviously the assistant device, so that's running the AI technology to convert your language, the sentence, into the right keywords. Then the search engine, which is actually performing the search. And then once the result is processed, then the AI of the assistant again converts it back to a natural language sentence, so that the answer is read out to you in a natural sentence as if another person was responding to you.
So a lot that goes in behind the scenes,
Absolutely.
definitely to make that happen. But in the end, it's the end result for the user. It's a positive experience, and it gets them to where they need to be. So then, the most important question: why should hospitals or healthcare systems, or I guess digital marketers in any industry, why should they care about using voice search on their websites? What are the advantages for them?
Dave, I think it's a fantastic opportunity for businesses to get out there even more, and more in a more relevant way, I would say. So when the consumer, you talked about hospitals, let's say if they're on the field and their kid gets injured, they could perform a quick voice search and say like, hey, where's the closest ER? Get the ER wait time, things like that, and it allows them to make a personal search at a very convenient way, and that's why it's being adapted at such a fast rate. I think some agencies have reported that already 91 million people in the United States alone are using this technology to perform searches. And for hospital marketers, I think, or any marketer, I think it's a great way for them to build that brand loyalty. So if they're able to provide that information in the local community, or even globally, if they are pioneers in certain treatments, things like that, or if your product serves a certain purpose that's that could be searched for, then you have this ability to provide that information, and any kind of relevant information that could be given to them. Instead of reading, it's now allowing the assistant to give them more information about that. So allows them to look beyond just the web page searches that have been traditional, like you go on a computer and then make a search, and that's still relevant because there's a lot more information, so people are going to do that. So once they perform a voice search and they know more about what's being offered, yes, they would go back to a computer and then could read more about that. But this voice search allows them to create that first interaction and allow them to seek more information about the brand. And because it's such a new technology, I think marketers have a key advantage to be the first and provide this information. Because if you think about it, like we talked about, the search engines could show you 10, 15 results, but with voice search there is only one result that shows up. So you have to. It is important that you are that first result that shows up.
Obviously, speaking of that, I mean, I'm assuming lots of good ways as well to make sure you are the first.
Yes, there are several different ways on how voice search works, and we talked about it earlier, but I'm going to go in dive deeper a little bit. And so there's two ways of how voice search assistants actually gather information of what's being sought. One is, think of them as apps on your smartphone. So there's also voice apps. These are called as the Alexa on the Amazon devices. It's called the Alexa skill. On Google devices, it's called the Google Action. And on Siri devices, which is Apple devices, it's called the Shortcuts. So these are specific apps that could be launched by certain keywords. And once they're enabled, it can interact and give you a lot more information about that specific product or that particular service that you're looking for. So that's one very specific way of how you could get on a voice search. The second way of doing it is actually improvising the information that you already have and making it more schema compliant. What I mean by that is that because voice searches are done in a more natural language, your answers or the content that you're serving from your website has also should also be tailored towards that kind of a response. So the first things I would do is that look at your website, and instead of it being more of a visual way of representing, the content should be more tailored towards if someone were to read it. Make sure that you have proper schema applied throughout your site, or at least to the key areas of your site. Make sure the information is available. If you use Google, I'll take Google example because obviously that's the most popular way of searching things on a computer. You get in the results, but you would have noticed what's called as a zero result. And for those who are not familiar, zero result is the result that appears above the search results. And this is the information that Google thinks is the most relevant to whatever the user is searching for. So you would notice that the information is shown right on the search results page, even without going to that particular website's page. So if it was a question, it shows you the answer right there, and then underneath it shows you like, hey, where it got that information from. So that's the level of interaction that you want to do. So you want to improvise your website and make sure that it's ready for that kind of interaction. Many people are doing that already, but you want to make sure that that is applied throughout your site, and you revise it and make it more optimized very often so that it's available.
Right. That's great information. I mean, obviously for the marketers to get their information out there, and just how to do it, and that's obviously what's most important, bringing your information out to the forefront to get to in people's minds as quickly as possible. So we talked, obviously, you talked quite well about how important it is for the digital marketers and for their websites, and you touched briefly earlier on the importance for the users. But in the end, it's all about those customers, right? It's all about the users of the business's website, and obviously some great advantages there for the user and being able to directly help that user.
That's right.
So I mean, what kinds of things you think anything additional that the user can get out of this? I mean, how, say again for a healthcare example. What types of things is that user going to be able to find and get to? You mentioned the emergency room type of example.
Yeah, I mean, this technology, I think, is going to be utilized at a faster pace, and I think it's going to become, a thing in the day of our lives, meaning, it's something that we naturally do. For example, these voice assistants are going to be everywhere around us. Be it your fridge, be your car, be anything. I would say for marketers, think of this as an opportunity. Right now, and it's also a cost-saving factor as well. You could have these assistants utilize the artificial intelligence that comes with them to be able to address any kind of questions or needs that a consumer may have when they're at your location. So imagine, I'll take an example of the hospital again, just because we talked about it earlier, is that if a person walked into the front door of a hospital, and obviously if it's their first time, they have no clue where to head. Imagine a voice assistant that just says, how may we help you? And then they simply ask that, hey, I'm trying to go to this department, or I'm looking for this particular physician's office. How do I get there? And, it could respond to them. Not only that, when they get in the elevator, that can further respond to them and keep guiding them. So it's helping in quite a few different ways. And we at Incubator actually are very excited about its possibilities and already developing a lot of technology around this. I think for a consumer, this is a very good thing that can happen to us. It can help us. And, with all the environmental, things that we hear about, voice searches allows us to be away from our devices without having to stare at them, So I think that's another reason why voice searches could get more popular.
Right. It's a great example of what you just gave. Is like not only, to have that ability to where voice search can help you out once you are inside the building. not just in your car finding where the hospital is, but some of the most important things you want to do is make that make that patient, that customer, that person coming into your hospital comfortable and at ease. And if
Exactly.
the voice search system can help do that,
Right.
then obviously all the better to keep them comfortable while they're there. So
Yeah.
those are some great examples. Yeah.
And I would also add, Dave, think of it also like, so these are things that, any consumer would benefit from. But let's also think about, seniors, they may not be comfortable using a computer or a new website. That could be awesome in terms of how drop downs are flying and videos are playing and all that. But it could be daunting to seniors or persons with disabilities where they don't know how to interact on those websites. With voice search, now they can interact with their devices, their assistants, and be able to ask for the information which they may not be comfortable discussing with someone. So they would rather use this technology to make those searches and find the right information. If we as marketers can provide that information to them, it makes it very easy, and I'm sure it benefits them a lot to be able to use this technology for those purposes as well. So there's a lot of possibilities for us as majority of the consumers, but also the consumers that have trouble using traditional ways of looking information.
Right. Other thing to think about from a marketing standpoint, branding. Branding is so vital in today's business world. How can voice search, as part of an overall digital strategy, help enhance a hospital's brand and enhance that hospital's or that business's stature in their community?
Yeah, so any business, the fact that consumers could be, so actually let's talk about how consumers would look for your brand. So it could either be an interaction where they're looking for a service or a product that you offer, but they may not be aware of your brand. The second could be they would be aware of your brand, and now they're trying to interact with a specific service that you provide. For example, they may have scheduled an appointment, but they have a need to reschedule the appointment, or to get driving directions to the location that you're trying, wherever that appointment is for, right? So let's talk about the first one, where they may not be aware of your brand, but maybe the service or the product that you're offering is being searched for. So you could utilize the voice search, optimize the answers for these questions, or and put your brand out there. So, for example, if you have a service that is the best possible solution for what the consumer is asking for, or the new consumers who could benefit from what you're offering, so new consumers, and then your own employees or staff, or any in terms of hiring talent for your business, so all three areas. So your staff or future staff, your consumers who are currently interacting, and then future prospects of who could be benefiting from your services to provide it, right? So, so in targeting all three of them, I think it's important that your brand is available to them in their new way of searching, which is the voice search. So, for example, a consumer who is already interacting with your brand, let's say they have an appointment at one of your locations for the service that they want, and if you provide them a quick way of just using their assistant to reschedule, or letting them know the contact information so they can make a phone call and get some more information. For example, they could be coming for a doctor's appointment, and if the doctor's clinic or the hospital has provided a skill where it can remind them that, hey, for your appointment you need these things before you come. So it reminds them in the right moment when they're at home, versus them being at the location and saying that, hey, sorry, you forgot these, so we have to reschedule. So that's like one way of how you can interact with your existing customer base and provide them a higher level of service by providing them the information at the right moment. The second is brand awareness outside of your existing customer base, and that's done by again tackling or advertising your solutions more in the voice search. So, for example, if they're searching for a new procedure, again, I'm talking about healthcare, then you put out the information in the right way for them. So when they ask for it, like, hey, I'm trying to get more information about this treatment, that information actually comes from your website and is more tailored towards a specific physician that does that or pioneers in that particular treatment, things like that, increases the chance of them, that consumer coming and interacting or actually converting as a customer for that brand. And similarly for your staff, I mean, it's quite important that you service them as well. We don't think of that, but I think your own staff is also important. And giving them information. So, for example, if for inclement weather, if let's say one of your locations is closed, letting them know that, hey, this location is closed. However, you can access the information still remotely. This is the process, and keeping them informed. These are all things that can help. One interesting application that could come in here is talking about the inclement weather. If the user, the staff person could simply say that, hey, is this location open today? Mm-hmm. And then the voice assistant lets them know immediately, because that information was provided, that, hey, this location is not open, and providing them a more customized message for that actually increases, I would think, satisfies that user, but also increases the brand effectiveness of how well the information is distributed.
Right. Great information. I guess it all comes down to keeping the customers happy, keeping employees happy, and providing a great customer experience, which looks like voice search definitely would do.
Exactly.
Well, Sujal, thanks again for the time. Always great information. Once again, everyone, that's Sujal Raju, President and CEO of Ancubator. And thanks to you, everyone, for listening in, and we hope you join us for our next podcast.